And we're live. Just checking that is definitely true. Hello and welcome to the LOP Radio RAW reviews. Can quickly check my audio. That sounds good. Yeah, I just heard me make a noise. Hello and welcome to the RAW review on LOP Radio. I just repeated myself, but who cares? My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on YouTube and also in podcast form. I'm sitting really weirdly. Links in the description, or head over to wrestlingheadlines.net. And today we'll be asking, was Keith Lee's Raw debut immediately botched? Or are there just some folk who are overreacting? Or there is reason to react, spoilers, that's my view. Anyway, we're going to be quickly going through that. First time here that I've got comments to get through before I even run through the stuff, but just a little quick plug. So if you want to hit me up at the Damn Implicat, it's under my name the entire time. On Thursday, I think the show is going to be a somewhat of a mix of the standard NXT review and NXT TakeOver kind of talk. I've got Jay Cool, the writer of the Cool Points on Lots of Pain /WrestlingHeadlines.net. He's going to be joining me to go through that stuff. So if you're wondering where NXT TakeOver content's been on Lots of Pain in terms of the audio and video content, kind of booking it in for then because I've been so busy. Also trying something out, keeping Cartoon Imp in the bottom left corner because I made a load of assets for the animated video and PNG Imp was one of them. So you're getting Cartoon Imp just to see. And as if you've watched my videos before, you know that wall is damaged in the corner. So let's just put a Cartoon Imp in front of it, see what happens. Anyway, Keith Lee's Raw debut. Nobody wants me to hear him talk about the other stuff. So was it a botch or not? So when I woke up, I saw lots of complaints, but I had no context. I had emails and things as well. People messaging me just like, "Have you seen the debut? It done this, it done that. They've changed this and that." So I knew there were changes going in, but I didn't know in what area. So it's with an NXT call up, and I hear they've changed things with Keith Lee. And I'm just like, what? I can say why, but until I see what they are, I can't really judge it. So Randy Orton's cutting a promo, and he's delivering an amazing promo. When I go through it beat by beat through the show, massive thumbs up to the Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton stuff again. Just absolutely nailing it. It's amazing to see how fantastic not Drew McIntyre, he has been fantastic, but Randy Orton, to see what he's like in form, it's like, oh, if we could get this Randy Orton more. With Randy Orton, you normally get him having an absolutely amazing year, then the next year is right, I've put in my effort now, I'm just going to have a bit of fun this next year. It's okay, cool. But Randy Orton's cutting an amazing promo on Drew McIntyre in reaction to what came earlier. When Keith Lee walks out and makes his debut, he was announced on SmackDown, on SummerSlam to be making an official debut, so everybody was aware he was arriving. There was a few worries of, okay, here we go, another NXT call-up. There hasn't been a successful singles, male call-up since Kevin Owens? Does Sami Zayn count? I don't really know. Sami Zayn hit an area, and he has some fantastic matches against Kevin Owens. But I feel like Kevin Owens has really only been the single successful NXT call-up, hitting the ground running kind of thing. There was a blip afterwards, but he hit the ground running against John Cena, or was made to at least feel like a big deal. Maybe that's the better way of wording it. Kevin Owens, stepping up to John Cena, was made to feel like a big deal immediately, rather than here's somebody and you don't know whether to get invested or not because you don't know if we'll be featuring them in 3 or 4 weeks. But Keith Lee, I feel like was the first one where they sent him in against a big guy and that made him feel important. And they established he had a friendship with Drew McIntyre and used this single episode of Raw to set up a rivalry with Randy Orton to then establish that they'll have a match at Payback. And Keith Lee comes out. I just realised I've not scored down to my notes for this. This would probably make a lot more sense if I can properly do it. But Keith Lee full-on challenges Randy Orton to a match. There and then, though. So they do set up a match for tonight. But in terms of presentation, so this was the first thing. His normal start the theme hits, bask in his glory, for he is limitless. Then it cuts into a generic guitar riff. And immediately I'm just like, okay. So this is, I heard there were changes plural, and this is the first one. And then he comes in and cuts a promo, and his Keith Lee delivery is like really good. he's got amazing delivery of his lines, Keith Lee. Like I feel like he's perfect for the WWE kind of writing, where his delivery will make it seem unique and the way he would say it, so you don't need to necessarily write like him, because his delivery and his way of reading it really makes it unique on his own, which I guess in WWE world he should fly. It's just, obviously it depends what's written about him. So that was the first change, to a generic guitar riff, and for me it's words from Jim Johnson, which obviously I didn't always agree with why Jim Johnson did a certain musical thing, but mostly he was on it. The amount of things he did that was just fantastic or iconic or really added to the character. But one of the things he said was, you got to make sure that the music that is playing, it does add to the character. It's part of them. Like I think he was saying with Vader, where it's just like the boom, boom, because you see him and it's just this menace. So he's like, well, that makes sense that the kind of a drum beat that's going in the background with him and then the heavy guitar, it just makes sense. And I felt like Keith Lee getting the generic rock music after his intro broke every one of those rules. So this random guitar riff that totally fits his character, that tells you who he is. No, it ticks all the wrong boxes. Whilst his NXT theme really added to his character, it was him singing it, and that's part of the charm of Keith Lee in a way as well. It's something he did on the Indies too, where he would sing his own theme, and again with the basking in his glory. It took me a while to get acclimatized to that, because I liked his indie themes so much. I recommend searching it just to see what I'm talking about. I think just searching Keith Lee indie or Keith Lee theme indie might be enough. But he genuinely, the NXT theme added to his character. It really was a part of him. It was like, you got that feeling like he has created this theme, his whole image, and that really, really helps. This guitar riff added nothing to his character. It was taken away a whole bit, which, again, it tells the presentation. Does it fit him? Does it tell you, the audience, about him? No, it's just a generic guitar riff. It's up there with Buddy Murphy, where he got his new theme when he went on Raw. It's just this is generic nothing. I get when I hear generic nothing theme, what that tells me, it reflects on the character, as that generic nothing equals his character is generic nothing, or mid card. They're not a superstar. That's essentially it. The superstars get the unique ones where you can really tell that that's their music. And Keith Lee's got his opening. He's still got that. He's still got part of it. The other part as well is his theme goes down, because it's like basking in his glory, and then goes and then it normally builds up into the choir basking in his glory. But here it goes down and it goes to a guitar riff, and they're not even the same pace. They're not the same tempo is what I'm looking for. They're not the same tempo, so it's really jarring. It's not the worst. It's not like where WWE themes where they cut in between them, like I guess Randy Orton and Edge, where it's yes, they were two rock songs, but they didn't gel. This is two different styles, which could work, but because they're two different tempos and paces and beats, like drum beats in the background as well, it's just so jarring. It felt like when Keith Lee turned up to the arena and they were doing the practice, somebody was like, I don't like this theme, and they made it there and then, and they just used whatever was on hand. That's what it felt like to me. That doesn't mean that's true, because personally, since CFO $ left at WWE, their music overall, unless it's rock, it makes me feel like whoever they got doing the music can do music, but not in all genres. And I feel like that was CFO $. I know that's not what they're called. Was that what they were called? I call them CFO $. When they could do lots of different things in lots of different styles of music, which means they're really perfect, because they can create different styles of music for different kinds of people. But Keith Lee, whoever's doing the music now, cannot do a wide array. And I feel like, because Killer Cross's song, it's fantastic. It fits him so much. It adds to his character immensely. It's an incredible entrance. But Keith Lee's was like one of the last of the CFO dollar sign music, and like I don't know, was there a reason they not using that? Like, use it on NXT. Like it can't be we can't use this off the network on USA type of thing, because he's had it for a full year on NXT. So that line means nothing. It's really weird. It's a character change that makes no sense. I've gone on about it too much, because the next character change, after they made the challenge and it's like always stepping up to the big man in Randy Orton, and then Randy Orton leaves, but with the look of all right then, like he had that look to him. Later they do have the match, and this is where they changed his outfit in a way as well. So he was donned in baggy shorts and a vest. I was like, what are you doing to this man? You best not be fat shaming him, Vince. But like it's two strange changes, but understandably Vince as well, in terms of like what he know. Like Keith Lee has an incredible, unique look that really adds to him. Again, with the entrance as well, as he stood there basking in his glory, he's got such a calm confidence about him. It's like such a unique feeling that he just emits this aura, and the fact that he does that, it's like it doesn't matter that he hasn't got a six-pack, because he emits such a unique aura that the whole package just works. But he hasn't got a six-pack, so he's got a vest on. That's my immediate thought. As in, that's not the kind of main event star that Vince envisions, therefore put a top on. Even, like why? It's a really odd one. Well, not an odd, it's understandably Vince, but it's also doesn't, in terms of, I guess, if you're looking at little things that WWE do that do not, I guess, mesh with the current era, as in like for example, the young audience they're grabbing for, they don't care. He is a larger-than-life character. He doesn't need the thing. It's like, he hasn't got a six-pack, you've got to cover it up. Like, he's a larger-than-life character. It works. It's fine. He doesn't need to put the vest on. It's a definite Vince thing, that. And I guess, personally, I'm obviously against it. It's like, why would you not display all body types in a way? Like, why would we be so against it if they've got to look a certain way? You got to cover, like, no. And the fact that was paired with the shorts, it was like he was dressed to go to the gym. And I was like, well, did he get a sudden late call up and had to just jet and he didn't have his gear? Like, no, this felt like a genuine thing. So yeah, two really strange changes, but it was paired with them like really putting him over against Randy Orton, like stepping up against one of the main event guys from the pay-per-view that just happened, like just the night prior. Like, he was avoiding and blocking a lot of Orton's early offense. Like, the legend killer forced to go outside and use the heel tactics, Lee powering out of a pin with force, full-on pouncing Orton out of the ring, like Randy quickly having to bring out his signature moves to actually try and ground him, and like catching him the great DDT, quickly going for the RKO, and that's where Drew runs in and attacks him, and Keith Lee kind of just vanishes whilst that's happening, and then returns later on after he's been attacked to set up the match with Orton at Payback. But it's a weird mix, and like I'm struggling. I'm doing really well to hold myself off going into, I guess, deeper commentary. Because I don't feel I'm not the guy to commentate on it, and the words have already been said. But it's one of those things where it could very strongly just be a really weird Vince thing, as in he's not a six-pack guy, therefore put a vest on. Something about his music he didn't like, so change it to a generic rock thing, or whatever he got on hand. It's like two changes which were uniquely Keith Lee, and they've just immediately changed him, just taken them away. I'm not a massive fan of those two. I feel like it's two changes that are so kind of tied to him, in that his unique image and his music as well. And you remove both of them for reasons I am not aligned with myself. Yeah. So, but I would also say it's ridiculous to say that Keith Lee was botched. So that's why in the title I did just have it as a question mark, and then I thought, and then I did it as an exclamation mark. I thought, but the question mark exclamation mark combo, that was perfect. Like, did they botch him immediately? they made some weird decisions and changes that are completely unnecessary, and if anything, take back from the Keith Lee character. As in, for me, that's why would you do that? They covering him up so you don't get to see his unique look, and changing his theme, which really added to his character, to a generic theme that adds nothing. It's like, they're two such strange changes that I can totally understand. People are like, oh, they've ruined him, they've botched him, this is like, in record time, they've broken this man. That's like, how do they do it? I can totally understand people having that kind of line of view, because the changes are so questionable. But it was also paired with a massive push and an immediate feud with, like, the top heel in the company right now, or at least on, I guess I don't know what SmackDown is. I need to watch SmackDown. Oh dear, a whole box just fell over, so that's great. And okay, cool. So you're going to see that. Hopefully that's all right. I'm going to leave it because I'm live. But still, again, I am in a world where there's an extension happening right above me and surrounding. There's a door right behind this camera with a massive scaffolding built above it, so there's boxes piled everywhere. I do really well each week to make it look like that's not the case. Have I knocked the laptop a bit? I think I have. That's irritating because there's a light to the left of me, which will blind some of you. Anyway, so the match, I've been massively distracted. Sorry about that. A box did just fall onto my wires and foot. So anyway, yeah, I can totally understand people being of that mindset. However, he wasn't botched. He was put over so strongly that there's no way I could look at it like that. He's been given such a big match that no, there's no way I would consider it a botch. I would consider it very questionable changes that I really don't understand, but he's not broken. Especially because they put him over so much, and Payback is going to get a massive showcase. He's immediately set to feel like a big deal, and that is better than so many NXT call-ups. It's one of those things where he's featuring so heavily, it doesn't feel like a normal NXT call-up or something where they'll get maybe a showcase against Dolph Ziggler, or they'll get like squash matches and then forgotten about, or EC3 not even featured. Like, just really bad, like, do we even care stuff. Sanity as well, called up with nothing. There's quite a few bad ones. But this felt important, it felt big, and that was good. So at least there's that. Personally though, I don't get... For me, it's a Vince thing that I personally think is just ridiculous and stupid. Keith Lee's look is so unique that it works, and it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a six-pack, because his look is, again, unique and works. It adds to him as a character and a person. I've been dancing around it because it's in my head. There was a line of commentary about kind of, I guess, black people and race, and how it's seen in kind of the, I guess, in the media world. And there was a radio DJ over here, and I can't recall her name right now, which is really bad. Cause the story's in my head though, so I'm going to say it. British people know who she is because this story blew up over here. Or when she said it. Because it was said with such emotion that it was just, like, it just hit the pulse so well. And explained it really well to people as well who kind of like needs the social commentary kind of explaining or learning about it. But she said that the phrase kind of is like, it felt like, as a black person, that you, as a society, you want my talents, but you don't want me as a person, as a black person. And the reason this is jumping around in my head, because the changes that were made to Keith Lee were so uniquely him and had added to him that immediately jumped into my head. As in, but it's the reason that it kind of gets pulled back a bit is because, like, Vince has done this before with other fat people. Just to say it like that, overweight people. He did it with Killian Dane most recently. This is not a new thing to him. With Roman Reigns, that's the reason he wears the vest. Like, even his top guy in Roman Reigns has to cover up, even though he's in amazing shape, because he doesn't have the Drew McIntyre Greek god. Then he has to cover up. So that is the case there. But it's the change of the theme paired with that, as in he's got such a unique look, and then you take away something that's so strong about his character. Again, he changes themes and messes around with them all the time as well, but pair them together, I really got that strong feeling. It's just this oomph of it's you like taking his talents, his amazing talent, but it's not. But his character got completely taken away, and that's reminded me just of that. It's like I feel like it's still such a relevant like topic to talk about as well and bring up, but it was in my mind. But yeah, I am fully aware Vince has done this with like white athletes as well, to put it like that. And this is something I really should have noted down when I thought of it. I was not going to bring it up, but it was on my mind so much as I was saying it. It's like wanting his talents, but not him as a person, and these changes just stank of that, which absolutely sucks to see. But I feel like it's a necessary kind of commentary to make. Were these changes made because he was overweight and because he didn't like the theme, or was there something more to the changes? As in, why didn't he like the theme? Why did he make him cover up? Why didn't he like his unique look? Is it just a fat shaming thing, or is there something? Or is it something like more to it? Again, it's not a conscious-based thing. That's not what I'm saying. That's the whole point of this, and this whole point is education this year. There's still so many people missing that point. It's more subconscious, more societal, which takes a lot of time to kind of. Not everybody's going to learn that at the same pace, but because it's not blatantly there, and sometimes it takes quite a bit of time anyway. Anyway, that's a massively big tangent. My point being, there were some very questionable changes about Keith Lee that I personally wouldn't have made because they took away from his character, but in ring wise, they really put him over, which is why it was conflicting, and that's why it reminded me about the radio DJ over here, just with the sentence that she said, that it reminded me so much of that, just because they put his talent over so much, but then pulled back on him as a character, that he's so strange. But they did say that he is friends with Drew McIntyre, and at Payback, for what Randy Orton did to Drew with multiple punts throughout the show, and they showed Drew getting taken to hospital after the effects of them, really putting over the punt, and now we find ourselves going to Payback this Sunday with Keith Lee facing Randy Orton in a really big match, which is great for Keith Lee. It's great to see that. Again, why did they pull back on certain parts of his character? That's and presentation. For me, that's strange rather than anything else. But he's not botched. He's fine. Yes. Also, I know I ummed around that a tangent a fair bit, but it's not an easy topic. And me just being a random white bloke, that's why I say I'm not the person to talk about this. There are many people out there to talk about this, but I feel like I'm going to keep bringing it up. Like, I see the comments on Lords of Pain, and I feel like if I keep making these points and keep bringing it up as being an issue, it will eventually become normal for this kind of talk to be featured on the site. People have been pushing it for years, and it got so much pushback. Like, shout out to Rich Latter for trying to explain, as a black guy who lived in Tampa when the whole fallout with Hulk Hogan happened, like, he tried to explain his point of view and the backlash he got. But massive kudos to doing it, and ever since, it's kind of like I felt inclined to talk about it, whether I'm not the guy, or at least retweet people talking about it. I feel like the talk is necessary. It's important to have. It's important to feature. Like, the more people get educated about it, the less stupid about it they'll be, I guess, is a way. That may sound like I'm talking down to people, but it's just, don't be ignorant and listen. This is the best way I can put it. Massive tangent. This isn't meant to be about that. It's meant to be about other things. So let's start of the night. Drew McIntyre, relating to all of this, he cuts a fantastic promo. Again, Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre both nailing it. Again, I thought Keith Lee also nailed his lines. Drew McIntyre, he thinks the Thunderdome is cool and he's proud to be champion. Which leads me to, when I logged in to do this live stream, I had a couple of messages. So I'm going to, on the live chat, so I'm going to quickly just address them. Feels like the 5 wrestlers pay for Thunder. Do you like or prefer Rusev? I like Rusev. Don't know any much more to say. I've really liked Rusev. For me, I was laughing at the Russia gimmick because I knew he was Bulgarian, and I was just like, to Vince, that's close enough. As a European, that's hilarious. It's just like, no, they're completely different countries. The fact you're getting a Bulgarian to play a Russian is okay, but to Vince, and yeah, To certain people, it's close enough. They're basically the same thing. They're really not. It's just cannot emphasize that enough. I found that hilarious. But he totally won me over in the League of Nations. Like a gimmick that just died of death. Really, it was clearly only there for one reason, and when they served their purpose, and that was a massive flaw. Really, they were so blatantly just there for Roman Reigns to defeat, and they served their purpose when he won the title. And when they started messing about with stuff, it kind of sucked a bit. But yeah, he was so funny in the League of Nations that he totally won me over. And I was a massive fan ever since. Rusev Day was great, and it sucked that they were obviously the Rusev or Miro now talking about Vince telling him that the fans were joshing him with the Jasmine Rusev Day thing. So Vince didn't like it, therefore he wasn't going to push it. But he was sugarcoating it, and you can read through the lines, kind of thing. Also, is the Hacker retribution, or have they abandoned that? I fully believe the Hackers just dropped and abandoned. They could easily tie it together and include him or her in this gimmick, but it's just a drop storyline. As in, it screams drop storyline. It screams. To be fair, Retribution. I'll talk about Retribution later, because they are featured in the show. Makes sense to get my points across there. But yeah, the Hacker's just an abandoned storyline. There's not much to say. Also, Retribution, because Retribution's building up to something, so it doesn't really account. But Raw Underground, we're at week 3, is it now? And or was it week 4? Oh, I can't remember. I think it's week 3. I think this is week 3 of Raw Underground existing, and it's not dead yet. It's still going. My rule was after 4. Is it still a thing? Or does it massively change into then shifting to something else? The thing. The answer is yes. After 4 weeks, if Retribution's still a thing, the answer is likely to be yes. So kudos to WWE. When they're trying out stuff and throwing stuff at the wall, even if it may feel random, the bigger stuff isn't just getting dropped compared to 2019. The summer of 2019, my God. They're not doing that. So because the show felt really random after, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was really worried, but it's settled down a bit. This show, I'll get to it later, but yeah, it's not as bad. It's calmed down. It reminded me of the 2019 summer. I was a bit worried, but it was just the one show. Anyway, Drew McIntyre cuts an amazing promo, and I really liked him saying didn't Randy win a match called the greatest wrestling match ever? Well, last night I won with a wrestling move. So what does that make me? And then he states if Randy wants to go again, he's all for it. This time he'll get to do the one thing he didn't at SummerSlam and kick his head off and take him to Claymore Country. Makes his way up the ramp, turns around to the crowd to raise the title and cheer once more. I really like how he was saying how much he loves the Thunderdome, because it felt genuine. McIntyre's really good at that with his promos. He'll just say something. It's like he's saying it to cameras, like, wow, this is great, this is awesome. But it's the way he delivers it. I genuinely believe that he thinks it's awesome, as a person. And that really, really kind of adds to him. He's doing really, really well at being kind of relatable like that. And it puts over the Thunderdome. So good employee work there, Drew. When Orton out of nowhere, the two brawl into Gorilla, and Randy wins out the fight, launching the Big Scott into the wall. Orton taking quick advantage and running in with the punt. Officials run out to try and protect Drew, including Sanjay Dutt. Nice to see you, Sanjay. But it doesn't work, and the Viper charges in with a second punt. Seems the feeling was mutual. Orton also wanted to do the thing he wasn't able to at SummerSlam and kick his head off. Tonight, he really won. Drew won on Sunday, but Monday night was all Orton. And in terms of building to the next thing, that's just really well done. With Payback being this Sunday, it is a bit balmy. You've got 1 week to build a pay-per-view. That's a little bit ridiculous. Just why? The only thing I can think of is they found out that Roman Reigns was definitely coming back. It was definitely a thing. They got him booked for SummerSlam, got that all organised, and as quick as possible, they're going to get the belt on him. So, Payback, poof, there you go, there's Payback, and Roman Reigns, it can feel a bit more natural because it's a pay-per-view. It's 1 week after other pay-per-view. So you've got 2 shows. Well, you got 1 show for each brand to build to a pay-per-view. That is ridiculous. Like, I'm generally just in 2 minds about whether or not just to cover it, and it's only because I'm doing stuff for Laws of Pain. Now, this weekend, it was set for New Japan. I was all set. It was all good. Suddenly, I'm up really late Sunday night covering things like, oh, that bloody sucks. Well, I don't think I'm about to do a live show for Jingu Stadium show, so I'm going to have to write a column instead. So at least I'll be covering it. You just won't see me in our pretty graphics. But still. Anyway, after that, a backstage interview with Sarah Schreiber. You'll see her a lot tonight. She's with Nia Jax, and Jax says that she's back and she got reinstated, and all she had to do was go to Pat Book and, apologise. As my microphone hopefully doesn't peak. Telling Shayna off, like, not Shayna, telling the interviewer off, Sarah, it's like, what did you think I was going to say? Like, I mean, yeah, that gag doesn't really work with such an obviously timed unnatural pause. Nia did. But hey, she's a heel, it's fine. Like, her delivering like that as a heel works, because for me it's perfectly fine for heels to be a bit corny and a bit crap with their jokes. So, especially somebody like Nia, where she kind of plays like a bully-like character. For the bully-like character to make crappy jokes that she thinks are hilarious, but it's really not. Like, I'm fine with that. Obviously, it felt like it's scripted as hell, really unnatural. But because the kind of character Nia Jax is, I'm fine with it. I can let it slide. Shayna Basler walks in and insults her, calls her Haystacks something. Apparently, he was a guy who died in the 80s, and I'm like, oof. Oh, relevant reference. No wonder I didn't know who it was. Nia, I was born in 92. Just to make a point. Nia calls her an Addams Family reject, another relevant... I mean, that was the animated movie. Ah, damn it, that one's come back. So, just love all around between Basler and Jax. That builds over the night. And part 1 is immediately next. Bayley with Sasha Banks versus Shayna Basler. The emotion from last night all over Banks and Bayley. Even though Bayley retained, Sasha looks so unhappy without her Raw Women's Championship. I just love the slowly building break they've been doing. Like, gradual strains on the relationship rather than one big plot point. Like, Sasha, not happy with Bayley, and it shows on both their faces. Like, Bayley knows it, and Sasha is like, ugh, but keeping it inside. And I really generally like that. For me, even though I'm saying, because I've seen people, are they going to do the breakup angle? For me, it's come across as, no, they're doing it. They've been doing it for quite a while, but it's not in the normal WWE storytelling way. And it's in that kind of way where it wouldn't be out of the realms for WWE to just not do it. Purely because it's like lots of subtle things, and you'll see looks and reactions to things, and yes, they may they may increase in the amount of times you see them in maybe a show or two. Like over this weekend, definitely increased, but they're never addressed really by commentary. And normally WWE storytelling is quite short, quite fast, quite short, blatant kind of plot points. Even if they're told over a longer piece of time, like I guess The Rock, John Cena, they'll only turn up for like big plot points type of thing. And when there's a turn, you'll know about it. But the way they've been doing Sasha Bayley isn't really that. You're seeing strains on the relationship like the entire time. Like, I still expect it to be the big let's get a pop moment. But like for me, I think the example I used was look at AEW and how they're doing Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. That's the same thing. Where yes, they're tag team champions. Yes, they may have kind of been getting along. But they're building the angle to split the entire time. But letting them be an act for long enough where they generally feel like an act. It's not the Kevin Owens in the New Day, where it lasted, 1 week? Like, didn't even last longer than that. Which is just crazy. But, like, just really, Sasha and Bayley are a team. You've really have got across that they are friends with a proper friendship, which has got strains and issues, but they cope with it, they get on. They work through them. But those issues appear to be building and building. And SummerSlam, I really like the story they were telling there. And it repeated itself again tonight in this match. This match was... Okay, it was fine. It was building relatively nicely, showcasing Basler again as a dangerous threat, but the interference kind of cut it down a bit. Like that was a running theme for a lot of the big shows, big matches, because they had to set up a pay-per-view. And how do you set up a pay-per-view with one show without people just walking up to each other and going, "Do you want a match?" Yeah, right. It's WWE. They're trying to get a bit more creative than that. Before the bell can ring, Nia Jax's music blasts over the Thunderdome. She just stands there on the ramp, watching like a normal person. Basler really put over as a dangerous competitor, able to transition so much of Bayley's offense into like a hold or submission. The Smackers champion needing Sasha Banks to run distraction to get a proper foot in. Bayley was able to throw Shayna to the outside, where her opponent never made it back in the match, thanks to an attack from Nia Jax, causing the DQ as she beats her up, throwing Basler in once more for a bit more damage, and there in the ring, Banks and Bayley slide out the ring, and they're just laughing at Jax and Basler. When Jax and Basler suddenly realise, and they stop, the fight kind of just pitters out, it just dies, and they look at the tag champions as like, they realise that the champions are right there at ringside, and they turn their attention, and the unlikely alliance has a connection. This sets up your tag team match. It's a bit odd and a bit strange and weird. It's weird because I was saying I fully expect Banks and Bayley to lose the titles, and that's like the properly first massive strain on the relationship. It's building and building, but I feel like them losing the tag team championships, especially in this way, especially after SummerSlam, and it all coming like bang, 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 one after the other, in terms of like hard hits, especially from the point of view of Sasha Banks, that I just feel like the final note in this week of hard hits for Sasha Banks to take in the point of view of her friendship with Bayley, I feel like them losing the tag titles on Sunday is the next beat. It's just a shame that they only had 1 week to build it, and that Jax and Basler kind of feel a bit thrown together, even though there has been a little bit of a build of a feud between them. It's been little bits of feuds in a way, and maybe it's just building a friendship they just don't really get on. Basler slapping her in the face later when they agreed to be a team. It kind of makes a point. But yeah, it's the right beat for the Banks-Bayley storyline, but the opponents, it feels a bit thrown together and a bit weird, purely because they've just not had the time to build it. Like, they did a whole storyline for Basler and Jax, which would last 3-4 weeks, and did it all in one night. And for me, that's why it feels a bit out of nowhere and a bit quick. Because, again, they were feuding with each other, they were fighting against each other, they were Raw Underground last week, they had a brawl. You saw Jessamine Duke and Maria Shafir turn up. Like, yeah, there was genuine build to that. But just purely because it's only 1 week, it feels like it's jumped pretty quickly. Where you would have done like a lot of these beats like 1 week per beat, but now it's all in one. It feels like, oh, you've shifted direction, like pretty fast. Okay, they're teamed together now. Like unlikely pairings, whatever it was called on the wheel. Whenever WWE were in Vegas, I missed those shows. I really enjoyed WWE shows where they had the wheel of stipulations and they just span it. Strange Bedfellows, that's what it was called. I missed that gimmick. I really liked that night. I always look forward to it, and especially as a preteen. That was like my favourite style of Raw. Anyway, next up, Kevin Owens' show with Aleister Black. Black clad in an eye patch, suit and vest, an interesting combination. He tells KO it's fine to show the footage of Murphy pressing his eye into the steel steps. Like, no, it's all right, just show it, just so that people kind of know what I've been through. But when we return, he's hunched over, like clearly not fine. And Kevin tries to relate. He also has had Seth Rollins get in his head. He's also someone that's directly been targeted by the Messiah and his disciple. When Aleister kneels like onto the ground, clutching his eye, as if like, oh crap, I'm in pain. KO goes to help, but it's a ruse! Black spins round with an elbow, knocking Kevin Owens to his knee, and follows up with a black mass, knocking him down. And I've seen quite a few different interpretations of this. For me, I immediately read it as the entire time this is what he knew, this is what he was doing. As in, he went in to do this, to pull Kevin Owens in, and when he realised he got him, that's when he went on the knee to properly kind of position and then go for it. He knew Kevin Owens would try and help him, and that's when he went for it. As in, it was all meticulously thought out and all methodical from Aleister Black with his new heel character. Other people have looked at it a bit more deeply, and there's the thought of when Kevin tried to help him, the reason that he attacked was because Aleister Black is truly embarrassed about getting gotten like that. So the injury, not only was it bad and horrific, he's also extremely embarrassed about it, and that's the reason he's lashing out. I'll go with the less, in terms of what WWE actually doing, my one's got less depth to it, so I'm assuming it's that one. And I don't mind it, to be fair. It's a complete new direction for Aleister Black. Obviously, he'll look cool with an eye patch, but still, I don't mind it. Backstage interview, just to quickly shift gears. Bayley and Sasha looking somewhat more upbeat after Bayley's victory at the start of the show. Or against Basler. Yeah, I guess. Schreiber asks... Oh no, she didn't win, did she? I just realised, yeah. But anyway, Sasha and her bonded. I just realised the interference from Jax meant Basler won. Schreiber asks how that's so when they only just escaped Nia and Shayna. And they say they're not focused on them. It's a good thing they did, because Sasha's got a rematch tonight against the Raw Women's Champion in a Lumberjack match, and she's got to prepare for that. It's a good thing to get hurt. So, yes, that's right. Sasha's got a rematch after losing the title in a rematch at SummerSlam after the rematch on Raw was indecisive. Spot a trope there. It's happened again. We're at the rematch haven. It's happening again. When WWE hit a vein of gold, they do not stop mining until it's all gone, which means it runs out quicker. We're at that point now. Sasha versus Asuka is an amazing feud. They're both fantastic, but I'm done with it. This Raw properly felt like it. A 24/7 championship. Shelton Benjamin versus Cedric Alexander versus Akira Tozawa versus R-Truth, a fatal four-way with the 24/7 rules suspended once the bell rings, as the commentators said. A quick bit of fun, almost wrestling at a cruiserweight pace with the 2 or 3 minutes they got here. In the end, Benjamin powerbombed Akira out of the ring, but he landed on the ninjas, who just lifted him back up onto the apron. A charging Shelton goes over, and an overzealous Truth gets sunset flipped into a pin. Akira Tozawa is once again 24/7 champion, and he quickly escapes up the ramp. That's it. I find it difficult to see 24/7 as nothing more than a bit of fun time filler. You give them a proper segment if you need some time to fill in a certain point, but it's just fun. It injects a bit of energy into it. It's something different for a few minutes. Okay. Yeah. I will always struggle to get invested into it because it's a comedy bout, but it's a WWE style comedy bout, and a lot of their comedy falls flat for me. Or it's too, maybe I was going to say too childish, but I just don't think it's that. It's too slapstick, I think is the word for me. A lot of it. So yeah. Backstage, Orton walking down a hall. We get Sarah Schreiber for the 3rd time in the night. I don't even know it's been an hour yet at this point. Schreiber enters stage right, asks after his attack earlier, does he know what he's going to do next? Orton simply says, yes I do, and he continues his way to the ring. And that's when he got our whole thing with Randy Orton and Keith Lee. I've already been through that. Backstage, Caruso's talking to us when she hears Zelina Garza and Bachelor Lady off screen. She asks, I've written down her name lower down, Demi Burnett, that's it. Bachelor, whatever it's called, it doesn't exist over here in the UK. It doesn't air. Well, if it does air, it's not on a main channel. I'm not going to look for it. So it's off a celebrity or TV personality that I assumed was only going to be there for a week. This is week 4, still here. Okay, she's properly in this storyline, and I don't know. I don't know who she is. The show doesn't exist over here, so I'm not really going to care or pay attention to the promotion for it. It's not my style of show. Not my style of show. Isn't going to air. Don't know who you are. You're still here. Cool. You're featuring into this angle. Right, and she asks Caruso asks, sudden interviewer change. Caruso asks if Zelina will admit to poisoning Montez Ford now. after playing Worst Case Roulette with Wrestling Shorts last week, and that video is up here on the Lots of Pain YouTube, and I just can't hear those words of poisoning and Montez Ford. I can't hear those words normal. Like, who ate that goat? It was Montez Ford. Watch the video, you'll get that gag. Obviously, there's a lot of build and context with the sentence, who ate that goat? It was Montez Ford. Oh, really made me laugh. Zelina has a match to get ready for, so leaves. Garza is up next, but his invite for both Charlie and Bachelor Lady to feel free to join him doesn't go down so well with that interviewer. Like, just asks, like, yeah, just the reaction of, ew, like, no, that's a bit creepy, no. It's like, yes, Charlie, well done. Realisation, you're not blinded by Angel Garza's moves. Yeah, and so we went straight to the match. Angel Garza, joined by Andrade and Debbie Burnett versus Montez Montez Ford, who ate that goat. That's what's in there. Montez Ford is just perfectly fine, on fire. Poisoning has played no part apart from the fact he was out a week. Angel Garza was joined by Andrade and Debbie Burnett. They built some tensions with Andrade at SummerSlam, because after losing again, because Street Profits just beat them again and again and again, and going into the pay-per-view they'd beaten them just straight, and then they beat them again on the pay-per-view. It's like, like logically, of course they did, because they beat them the entire run to the pay-per-view and then beat them on it. So of course, but there was tensions there shown between Garza and Andrade. Then he cut to Raw, and it's like there's nothing. Like, Andrade's just there because they're tag team partners, so he's there next to him. Just like Dawkins was there next to Montez Ford. For Angel Garza, it's a love square. The distractions are affecting his match results. That plays out again here. Garza running well he's running well over Montez Ford until Ivar came out with his sweet offer of meat for the lady. Angel's focus fully taken away, and he turns right into a kick to the chest from Ford. Poor him. He tries to fight back, but he fails. Garza pushed off the top rope and crushed by Ford's amazing direction change frog splash. The Street Profits beating Andrade and Garza yet again. But yes, like I heard somebody else just laughing at the thought that, well, Debbie Burnett was out there to support Angel Garza, and Ivar is like, because Ivar comes out, it's just like, pretty made for the lady, and she just takes it. It's like, are you simple? I don't know. Like, oh, pretty meat. She did. There was at least context saying that Ivar and her had been talking, so it wasn't a, oh, you've come with me. It's like, oh, it's Ivar. More reaction like that. But it made me laugh. That pretty mate. I was like, yes, please. Can you tell I'm a bit knackered from the weekend? I'm a little bit silly and a little bit dopey. Editing all day Saturday to get the animation out for the Worst Case Roulette. Lots of effort put into that animation. And Sunday, up super late, going to bed at 5 a.m. after SummerSlam, after doing Aftershock. I'm a bit silly today. A bit dopey. Basler and Nia realise they might have something as a team, and they're backstage, both asserting they're the leader, though. And they both just shout at each other, yeah, but remember that this, or remember that. And then Basler just, like, they kind of agree in a way, and Basler, very friendly, just slaps Nia Jax in the face and walks off. But they both agreed to be a tag team before entering a little more of a, yeah, well, and then the slap just to emphasise they're not really friends. It's unique, it's different. Yeah, and this was where Banks and Bayley versus Basler and Jax was officially announced for Payback. Just got to make that official. Also announced the contract signing for this Friday. The Universal Championship was also confirmed for Payback after they said again and again that Roman Reigns has returned. They then switched that to there's going to be a championship signing. And that doesn't surprise me that much that there was a change as the news was coming out, it came out today, that Raw was being written as it was airing. Like, Vince turned up apparently at like 7-something p.m. and rewrote the entire show. Again, this happened again. And you can tell, I felt like the first 2 hours flowed really well, which is quite remarkable given the second hour. Like, it was still and apparently it was still being rewritten, towards the end of the first hour, which is like, that's crazy. They were an hour in and it still hadn't been finished, like the script for the show. Which then doesn't surprise me that halfway through the show, the plugging for Roman Reigns shifted from he's back to he's got a match at Payback, as in this period of time the match got confirmed. I mean, it was one of those where you look at the scenario, and I'm assuming most of us thought that anyway. So it's like, yeah, it's not that big of a jump, and you've got a pay-per-view just the next week, so you're just doing this anyway. I get this is a reset. But all these matches with so little build, really hard to get invested. Like, it just turns it into a lot of stuff. Like, even if it looks great, the card looks strong, but it's all just stuff. Like, it's a Transformers movie. It's just stuff happening in front of me, which might look cool, but you got your Kevin Dunn camera cuts, so you can't really tell a lot of it. And it's just stuff without much reason to care about the stuff happening. So yeah, pretty pictures. It's a good way to put it. But it's officially announced, Roman Reigns, The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman contract signing ahead of Sunday. Looks like the rumours of them immediately putting the belt on Roman may have some weight to them. And yes, there's the thing of they were set to put the belt on Roman at WrestleMania, and this is them kind of going to it. But in terms of story, in terms of investment, in terms of what I've seen on the product, there's no build to it. He just arrives, and if he just arrives, wins the title, there's not really much to that, if that makes any sense. And all the build they did ahead of WrestleMania, it's like, they built him up for WrestleMania. They've not built him up for this match. He's just returned. We don't really know what his character is. I really liked his presentation at SummerSlam. If they can keep that momentum going, like, no crappy lines for SmackDown. Just keep this kind of character. Like, to the point where he's doing some heelish things, but that's just because he feels like he's got a direction of rage, a direction of anger. Like the badass Roman Reigns that I personally wanted for so long, and they came close to doing it after The Undertaker. They just backed off back into generic stuff. Like in a desperation of character tweaks to try and get him over. I was like, you were this close to making Roman Reigns the badass, and I was really into that character. As in, doesn't really care if there's any booze or things, he's just a badass. They were so close. Personally, I felt like his character did hit a nice stride. They put him into crap feuds every now and then, but he'd personally hit a strong stride. They put him in a decent written storyline. Like, he's great, he's perfect. He has great matches with almost everybody. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the match at Payback. It's just that I don't have... It's not been... As I said, the stuff is likely to be great. It may even be a very strong show. It's just that I don't have a lot of investment in what's happening, purely because it's just been so rapid fire, so quick. Zelina Vega and the Iconics versus Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair. The run of decent, quick, middle of the card bouts with Ruby, Liv and the Iconics continues, this time incorporating Belair and Vega's rivalry, nicely mixing it up. The addition of those two was nice. The smaller Zelina, a really great opponent to showcase Bianca's strength. In the end though, chaos all over. It looks like Bianca's going to get the win, but the Iconics jump in to stop it. Then it looks like the numbers game is too much before Ruby and Liv get back in and settle the odds. And then we're back to Zelina and Belair, a KOD to Vega for the win. Belair continues to be made look like a beast, which if that's the end point of this, yes, he got a little direction for a lot of... He got a lot of time for Ruby Riott and the Iconics. I've been really impressed with a lot of their stuff. But Bianca feels like a star. And giving her wins without elevating her whilst the current main event sort their stuff out, like, that's really smart. And you can, for me, elevate Bianca, like, when you elevate either Jax or Basler, which I think will be after Payback. Like, once they do that, then you can elevate Bianca into a feud with somebody. They can even go with Bayley or Sasha Banks. Like, you don't have to... If Bayley and Sasha Banks have a bit of a... then you can use their falling out to give Bianca Belair some time with the point of, Banks and Bayley aren't really together, they're clearly affected by the falling out. Then you have Bianca Belair jump in and pick up some wins, continue to make her look strong. That's what I would do. I got to remember, don't fancy book anything on WWE, because you just make yourself disappointed when they do something else. Arm wrestling. Ricochet and Cedric Alexanderson are pissing about with the arm wrestling thing. Mark Henry takes it for the segment. They're just like kids. It's like, oh, right then. But I really liked MVP. Coming in and telling them off, like saying, come on, what are you doing? You just lost. Do you not care? Like, I love this. MVP's character work is so good. I've been into this so much. The fact that he tried to recruit them, they rejected him, but then he continues to be like, there's a reason I wanted to try and recruit you. And the only reason I'm beating you up, really, is because you keep refusing, and I know how good you can be. It's like the entire time he's trying to say to them, please, just listen. It's nice. Like, as a mentor character, he is so good. It's working so damn well, and the Hurt Business gimmick is fantastic. The greatest comeback of the year for MVP. Fantastic. Yeah, like the story of he knows how great they can be. I love that. He's not angry. He's just disappointed. Like, oh, you're so good. He's so good. Arm wrestling. Here we go, guys. The Mark Henry arm wrestling show. Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews. Like, I've never really cared that much for the arm wrestling stuff. It's a bit fine, I guess. But good God, do they do numbers? Like, every arm wrestling segment has over 60 million views on YouTube. Like, damn it, people. Why you be like this? Shout out to Gary Cassidy for actually doing numbers on that. He's got more accurate numbers for all of the videos that they put up. But that number, good God, like, I do not blame them. Bobby Lashley's last one is on like 60 something million. It's like, yes, I understand you doing it again. And this one will probably do well too, because for some reason arm wrestling does really well. Personally, yeah. But anyway, hopefully this United States Championship match will actually take place on the pay-per-view card this week. Lashley pissing about before going to do the arm wrestling, but Apollo's actually the one to kind of capitalise. Bobby apparently doing something that's illegal in arm wrestling, and sticking his foot kind of further out. But then Apollo Crews just stamps on his foot, and after that, he slams the hand down for the victory with Bobby like, oh crap, my foot, and then bam, Mark Henry's like, oh, that's fine. Like, you're in on the axe, damn it, Mark. Cheeky Crews. Even then, dodging Lashley's attacks and launching out to the rest of the Hurt Business over the top rope before they can come down. Like, for me, I saw quite a few different opinions, but for me, not the worst way to give Apollo a tad of momentum before taking on the big lad. Like, shows he's got some genuine guile about him, which he will really need when getting up against the Hurt Business. Because I saw quite a few comments of, why are you booking Apollo heel? Well, I was like, it's like you're booking him to have guile, which he's going to need against this unique kind of style of opponent in like the Hurt Business and with Bobby Lashley. I'm fine with it. It was fine. It's a trait he's going to need for the match, and he established that he had it. So he's got a chance that he might win with something more than just like avoiding the big attacks from the big guy. After that, Dominic versus Rollins recap. And then we're backstage with the family. Caruso asks how they're feeling after last night. Ray's proud of his son. Dominic says knowing he had his family there made him stronger. A nice touch with Ray saying that Seth will understand all of this soon, but when he becomes a father, he'll learn all about how strong being a family can make you. And the Rey Mysterio family is stronger than ever. Which my immediate thought was, you've lost everything though. You have one eye. Your son got whipped crazy at SummerSlam. Yes, he also impressed, but he lost as well. You ended it with you in handcuffs, kind of going after. Still, it was just that one comment. I can take the piss out of it, even though I'm enjoying the feud. They've course corrected really well. Dominic is impressed at every single turn. It's obviously a shame about the eye stuff being an absolutely massive detractor for a month in this storyline. But after that, for me, right back on course, and I thought SummerSlam was fantastic. And they're building and turning really well, featuring Dominic on Raw properly. Yeah, I quite like it. Again, the hood's a bit of an odd decision, but I can buy it when a heel starts to kind of bring him down because he's got the hood. That they can grab it, they can keep him grounded. It's like a little rookie note, like a little thing. Yeah. Next up, Lana and Natalya in a time filler. But I saw a lot of people like, nothing. But I like this. immediately there's something about the two of them in the matching outfits that makes me laugh. Like they've all over their faces. It's like, look at us, look at me. Oh, it's a character Lana does really well, and Natalya to herself, to be fair, also does it really well. Like this is an act that is genuinely getting a laugh out of me, and which is nice. It was 2 minutes of getting a laugh out of me, and they say they're there to induct Mickie James. I've written Natalya in my notes. That's not right. They're there to induct Mickie James into the Hall of Fame. They're saying, but like it's so difficult to measure up against Natalya, like calling herself like the best of all time. #boat. They're gonna laugh out at me. Don't know if that's a genuine thing, but saying #boat I just thought it was funny, and them saying like, oh, this is this cool Vogue thing to say. but yeah, I like that. They're going to retire Mickie James. First though, Natalya shows her really hard editing working highlight skills, all of James's career. But when they show it, it's just a blank screen, and that's the gag for the segment. There are no highlights. James darts down the ramp, really not messing about, runs right out and kicks them both in the face. Byron saying, "You do not disrespect Mickie James," which was the exact line fans were saying last week. Do you think they heard? Did they by any chance hear the negative reaction of why you disrespect Mickie James like this and then directly say it on air? Yeah, it was short, it was fine. Mickie James looked like she had fire, and Lana and Natalya made me laugh before they got beaten up. It's like, yeah, fine. Segment number 10. Case in point, we're at Raw Underground point, and we're already in double digits. A full hour to go. We're already in double digits in terms of segments. Or was it even more than an hour and we're already in double digits? Like, this is where I suddenly realised, and it all made sense after I found out that the show was being written as it was airing. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Suddenly why we're getting these short time filler segments. It all worked. Suddenly, yes. It hurts to the pacing. Like, I wouldn't say Raw Underground was my fatigue point, but it was certainly my how long is this show questioning mark of the night. Like, so many segments on this show to like, again, this is the 10th one of the night, and there's still a full hour to go. Like, we're into double digits. Normally, as a case in point, because I normally keep a tally of these things, because I do a number each segment so I know which part I'm at when I'm covering the show. And normally, for Raw, it's 9 or 10. That is the normal amount I got. So the fact that I saw 10 at the start of the hour is like, good God, also that explains a lot. Okay. Anyway, don't care for Underground. Like, it's not my thing at all. I said this last week when I did the show with Vance Morris from Chairshot Radio. So I can't really give much commentary on it because I just don't take it in. I just zone it out. It's just so much about it isn't for me. But I did get that Lashley's beat up a lad in white jeans. Then Ziggler went at him but ended up getting launched out, flying over into a wall over the crowd. We will return to Raw Underground, but that's all I got happened. Keith Lee versus Randy Orton. I've already talked about that match, but at the end of it, Drew McIntyre comes out and forces the DQ. The bell rings as they brawl along ringside. Orton escapes over the barricade and away as McIntyre gets back into the ring. Just like, damn it, and just stares away to where, in the direction his enemy had ran into. It just stares away in anger. And this leads to a segment after the break. We got a full recap of Roman's return. Great, as if this show isn't long feeling enough. We now got a full recap. So I, again, being English, skipped through it. After that, Charlie catches up with Drew. He's pissed at Orton, but before he can deliver a message, he's attacked from behind by the man himself, followed up immediately by the third punt of the night. Really not a successful night for the Big Scott, and WWE really put over this third one. Like, there was a long break from us seeing Drew getting punted at the start of the show, and then like an hour, 2 hours later was when we saw the Keith Lee match, and he comes out. And so it was quite a long gap for him to have covered, to have enough to go back at him. But this one, it was no. He was already damaged, but this one's taken him out. He's done for. After the back, we recapped the entire thing happening, and we cut to the doctors, and Charlie is at the doctor's door, puts over the punt massively, saying she overheard doctors talking about Orton's attack, possibly giving Drew a fractured skull, followed by WWE medical nonsense. It completely takes me out of this when they do that. Like, just end on fractured skull. You're over-explaining it. You're not adding anything more by going into the medical jargon. Just say fractured skull. That's fine. You don't need to say anything more. It's completely unnecessary scripting. Just don't include the added bit. I guess they're trying to make the report feel more legit with the medical jargon. WWE do this a lot. It's a pet peeve rather than something that I can say for certain is a negative. It's a personal peeve. It's completely unnecessary. Don't need to do it. But we have our reason for Drew not being at Payback. That's what I thought this was. Giving a genuine reason for Keith Lee to be angry at Orton, a genuine reason for Keith Lee to challenge Orton and be able to, and for McIntyre to be out of the picture. It kind of just ticks all those boxes, and you, again, play out an entire feud, which will take 3-4 weeks, and do it in one night. Like, again. Which, again, explains why the show felt long, because there was so much happening, and a lot of it at such a short kind of length that by the end it felt like a lot had happened. Again, fine for a 2-hour show. Even more perfect for a 1-hour show. But for 3 hours, by that third hour, I'm just waiting for it to end. Which is, unfortunately, is the case in point when we get to our Lumberjack match. Asuka versus Sasha Banks. 5? Is it 5? Like, within a month, is this the 5th one? I think their first one would have been Extreme Rules, and they played on from there. But yes, we've reached WWE's peak point once again. The rematch for the rematch of the rematch of the match. Immediately, they get that Lumberjack gimmick over with Sasha falling to the face's side. I really liked Bayley telling them just to hold off. Just like, get away, Lumberjacks. Also, not calling them Lumberjills, just to call them Lumberjacks. I think Lumberjills was like a Divas thing, so again, it's just standard because they're wrestlers now, they're not divas. I was going to say, I also kind of liked Bayley being a lumberjack. Her conflict of interest would have had her application rejected. But it's wrestling, who cares, let's go. It was a nice dynamic to the normal lumberjack formula to have somebody with such a clear conflict of interest being one of the lumberjacks. Aside from your normal face-heel divide that you always get. Awesome counter from Banks, spearing Asuka out of mid-air. Once again, a great match with beautiful transitions and fantastic fast pace. But I'm just knackered. This is the 12th segment of the night, and there's still 30 minutes left. Good God. And I just saw this match yesterday. And that was the 3rd or 4th in a month, and this is, again, the 5th. I've seen them wrestle so much. They're always good, but I'm fatigued of it, and that sucks because it's something I enjoy so much. I generally have really, really enjoyed the work between Sasha, Asuka, Bayley, and Kairi Sane, which she was in there as well, and generally just been a joy to watch. But I'm fatigued with it. They've mined the vein of gold, and yes, it is gold, but they've mined it dry. And still hammering away. But I guess you could see. I guess you could use this to set us onto. I use Payback as a transitional phase. So yes, at the end of this, great sequence on display again, using the lumberjacks really well. Sasha Banks going to dive on Asuka when then Asuka moves and she lands onto the lumberjacks, and Asuka goes to do the same. Just really nice kind of uses of them and spots they were used really well to a point where their presence was felt, but they never completely ruined the focus or took it over, which happened in a lot of lumberjack matches. I guess another prime example of it done really well was Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. They had, was that even on a SummerSlam or something? They just did a lumberjack match on a pay-per-view, and it was really good. I remember going into that with just, the feud's been fine, but lumberjack matches are never good. But yeah, it was. It done really. I enjoyed. I noticed this was good, but I was tired. I guess that's the best way to explain it. That's why I'm bringing up other lumberjack matches where I noticed they were good. I thought this match was good, but I've seen them wrestle so many times in such a short period of time, and on this particular night I am knackered. the pacing of the show's not been great. So by the time we hit like the final half hour, it's like, my God, how many segments are in this? So that was segment 12. But for the second night in a row, oh dear. In the end, Basler stopping Bayley from interfering, which led to the distraction, letting Asuka back in for the Asuka Lock win. For the second night in a row, Bayley's distraction attempt doesn't work and ends up costing Sasha the match. And it's all over Sasha's face. And it's all over Bayley's face. Like, Sasha's angry. Bayley knows she's messed up and that she's angry. And this is like bigger and bigger strains on the relationship. And it feels like the tipping point will be Payback. I just, I don't know. Personally, I would have it be the massive strain, but that doesn't mean they properly break up. As in, it's the massive strain where maybe they'll try and work it out, but it just doesn't work, and the strain becomes like loose, like more and more worn as they continue to work together as a team or whatever. That's what I do. Continue the long-term story they've kind of been doing, rather than right, it's time to do it. Change, bang. It's like, yeah, you've done such a good build. Like, yes, I would be invested if you do a Kevin Owens show. Why am I on this list? Kind of twist. They would get a reaction. But I've really enjoyed the different way they've told this story. It's way storytelling you see like in loads of other places, in TV everywhere, even in wrestling in the different companies, of just taking your time rather than, well, it's pay-per-view time, so let's build it to that. But yeah. Less of a big advancement after SummerSlam with that arc, and more of a minor swing / follow-up. Before I get to that, more comments to look through. Did I see that Benoit? I see Benoit and the Hacker. I didn't see the Hacker, but I did see Benoit. I saw it on Twitter. And I think I put out a tweet saying, at the damn Implicat, I put out a tweet saying that my kind of thing with like the troll kind of things, because there was the massive thing with the KKK guy as well. Personally, my kind of view on it would be not to give them nothing. Don't post any articles on the trolls. It's different on Twitter, because sometimes you feel like if you can catch this, then you can kind of put a spotlight on it and I guess help WWE with the evidence, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But we've seen the downside of that as well with Photoshop. Like, immediately there was a fake put out of someone putting Sonya's stalker on one of the boards. And they're like, my God, this was too far. They did this during the match. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that during the match. Turns out the reason I didn't see it is because it was fake and someone had Photoshopped it. And I was like, well, what are you doing? It's like, that's just as weird and just as strange. So my view is to not give them the spotlight. They don't deserve the light. Just ignore them. Let WWE handle it. In terms of like the headline sites, like personally, I don't want to be seeing articles labelled offensive things spotted on this night on Raw or whatever. Like, I don't want to keep seeing those things. And yes, I know the trolls will keep happening, but you don't give them attention, they will leave. And that's kind of the big difference, though, is because it gets broadcast on television, there will always be that incentive. And if you've watched WWE for long enough, you know the incentive to do something because you're on a live crowd at television, for some people, is too much. And people being live on TV from their home, and they're just there on the screen, and they know that it will take a second for their thing to get stopped. For me, that's gonna be an even bigger net of people. Yeah, personally. But weirdly, I did like the tweet of the person doing the fired Velveteen Dream thing. But that's more because of WWE's handling of the issues pissed me off. Because it's like, no, not handled the Velveteen Dream thing well in any way. A biggest blunder being PR-wise as well. It was handled so badly all over the map. And that's kind of why I supported that one. But things like showing the Benoit photo, showing the KKK stuff. I think someone aired a beheading as well. Showed a thing. It's like, this sort of thing, just absolutely no. I don't want to give it any time of day. And I'm only addressing this is like the first week as they're figuring stuff out. And as we're like, okay, these things are happening, how do we address it? My way of addressing it, pretend it doesn't exist. That'll be my thing. I won't be talking about it on this show. I won't be talking about it in my columns. I won't be clicking on the articles, posting about it. I won't be reading the articles, discussing it. It's just yeah, if I just ignore them, don't give the attention, then maybe they'll go away. But for me, the biggest way to stop them is putting deterrence in there, as in for WWE. But of course, I don't know American law well enough to know how much they can do, aside from treating it like a Twitch stream. So yeah, there's a reason Twitch streams need moderators. Like, every single Twitch streamer needs somebody to be in there banning people. For a reason. And if this is like a big, massive Twitch stream in a way, and it's like that's the Twitch chat, like the stream chat in front of you live, like, you actively need people to be on top of it. And I understand that's really difficult. WWE might have to hire quite a lot of people or expand the amount of people working on it. It's realise I'm looking out at a weird angle. Might be doing it for quite a while. There's a lot of bugs flying out that door. So yeah. Anyway, that's my thought on it. And secondly, did I hear Riddle on Watch Along when Roman returns? Oh, did he say there goes my push? That's hilarious. I've not watched that. I might go and see if Riddle said there goes my push when Roman came out. That's hilarious. I need to go watch that. Anyway, after that we got Drew taken off in an ambulance. Charlie informs us he'll undergo evaluation, then talks to Keith Lee, asks what he's thinking. Keith says normally he'd be backstage telling Drew like, hey, don't get involved in my Raw debut. But instead, I'm watching my friend get loaded into an ambulance. Drew's tough, he's going to be fine. But Randy Orton, I cannot say the same for him. Yeah, I thought I set up the match really well. And we got Raw Underground, and after Raw Underground, the match was officially confirmed. So, in terms of a 1 week build, yeah, you're doing relatively well. Just the changes for Keith Lee are a bit weird, but you've placed him in a really important position, and you've made him feel super relevant. And it's a big style debut against your biggest heel. That's a great way to introduce an act. Raw Underground, let's address it. Lashers is still beating people up. This time choking out Cedric Alexander. Ivar of the Viking Raiders, I guess he's finished his date with Derry, charges in, and we go to end up with an all-out brawl. All three of the Hurt Business standing strong. But it's Raw Underground, and for me, it does nothing for me. Part of it's the music as well. The entire thing just feels like like the year 2000. It just feels 20 years ago. It's really weird that they do it. It just doesn't fit for me. It's really strange. Obviously, again, I do always have to say the kind of thing against that is I did enjoy Bloodsport, but that was once, and then it's a full year till the next one, and it's one show entirely like that. Raw Underground, with the music, with the Shane commentary. With the high production as well. Like this week as well, it was obviously at the Amway Centre, so it wasn't in a dingy underground either. It's a well-lit area. So it's like, there's a lot of conflicting things for the idea for it, but the style does nothing for me. Is anybody getting directly built up by this? I thought they might be, but this week we didn't see any of those guys. It was just main roster people really getting a bit of a rub there. Fine. Then we go to the main event, Dominic and Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. Immediately into a brawl, Rollins launching Mysterio over the announce desk, the bell finally ringing with he and Murphy rolling Dominic into the ring, but he holds his own, fighting off both lads and the perfect amount of time for Rey to recover. The Mysterio standing tall as we head into a break. After the break, it's Rey struggling and Dominic who eventually gets the hot tag, really pushing the kid as a super rookie. I'm all in for it. He's proven, like, he's stepped up to me at every single turn. Just why not continue to just give him more and more bars and see where does he fall over any of them? Like, does he continue just to jump over them? Again, because he's a rookie. Where would he fall at some point? Spiking Murphy, popping off the ropes into a spinning DDT. For some reason, I lifted my hand a little bit to emphasise hopping. It doesn't really emphasise it, does it? So he spins that DDT. Like, even Rey back in, he isn't fooled by Rollins/Murphy's tag work, as we've seen in the past on Raw. The Aussie hit by the double 619, which is, I've not written this in the notes, which is the 1238. Is that right? The 1238. I'll go with that. But before they hit the splashers, they're attacked by Retribution. So I did say I'd talk about Retribution later, and here we are. Rollins and Murphy escape up the ramp, leaving the Mysterios to get beaten down by the group. Honestly, would quite like this to progress a tad into like some reveals or something, or at least a persistent, stable like size or lineup. Like their heights change so drastically. How many people are in the group? Do they have like a direct aim or thing going for it, or is it just random chaos, like it said on Roman Reigns' shirt, like wreck and leave or whatever it was, something like that? And yeah. For Retribution, it reminds me a lot of the Who Attacked Roman angle from last year. Like, it screams that it's being made up week to week with like nothing longer in place. Like, I'm really hoping they become more focused in the coming weeks, because the attack this week for me had such little impact. But like, again, for me, the Retribution attack at this end, because they're feeling to me somewhat directionless, that led to the ending of very little impact. So, yeah, and that's it. Again, I'm not saying Retribution are definitely just I'm completely lost. For me, it's like, right, now it's time to move on to the next gear. Perhaps because of Payback, he didn't do that, but I was thinking after SummerSlam, but then it was announced about Payback. Okay, maybe after Payback. But if they continue to just do the random stuff and not really reveal anybody, you fall into dangerous territory. For me, that was the one con about the Aces and Eights, is they came dangerously close to leaving it too late. Again, this is like a 10-year... When was Aces and Eights? Was that 2013, 14, 12, 11? I get so confused about that. About that 5-year period in TNA from like 10 to like 15 or 14. But yeah, Aces and Eights personally did really well for TNA, but the only reason I'm relating it, because it was guys in masks and you didn't know who they were, and they'd come out and randomly attack. But if I'm right, they did have a bigger picture of what the group was, and that they had like a kind of angle for it. And this feels like pretty directionless. That's why it reminds me of the Who Attacked Roman, where that angle, even though there was some reports put out there that no, Vince knows what he's doing, that was so clearly made up week to week, and he didn't know if what was revealed on a show would be relevant that next week. And the attacks by Retribution don't feel like there's a reason for it other than causing chaos. Again, throwing a cement block through a window that you have no plan of entering, so you just throw it through the window and leave. Alright, it's like doing things for the visual of creating chaos, whilst really just being inconvenient. It's not really the same thing. And WWE doing on SummerSlam, like my one criticism for SummerSlam was when they aired a properly edited vignette for Retribution, whilst also saying they're this group trying to take down the company and they're properly against us and things, and they're just this rogue group. Like, why are you making a professionally made VTR package for them then? Yeah. But anyway, it looks like there's a cool idea in there. It just kind of needs to move on, or spend the time to figure out where it's going and have that clear direction. And part one of that is, how big is the group? How many members? Oh, that's the same point. And who are those members? Also importantly is their actions. Why are they attacking? And who are they attacking? Kind of as well, if you want to lead off from there. I thought this week could possibly have been the first kind of week in that way, as in going after Dominic and Ray. But because of past weeks, it just is like, well, this is the latest in random. There's random stuff happening. But that is it for the show. Like, bloody hell, what a long feeling show. Like, the first 2 hours were surprisingly well flowing, especially given the show was reportedly still being written well into the first hour. But wow, was that third hour a struggle. The pacing issues really apparent, and Retribution feeling somewhat directionless just meant the end fell flat for me. But what did you think? Hit me on Twitter, damn it, Imbercat. Didn't say my Twitter name right. It's 1:30, ready for bed, and that's after a knackering weekend as well. I'll be back on Thursday for the NXT review. I should be joined by J. Cool, the NXT columnist on lordsofpain/wrestlingheadlines.net. He joined me for the Great American Bash. He's joining me once again for NXT review this week to talk the aftermath of TakeOver. quite often the shows for NXT will do a lot of recaps, so I don't know if that era's dead now they're on the USA Network, because this was the first big takeover for me since they've gone to this era, and as it's one aligned with a big it was takeover 30 as well, like a big celebrationary one, and it's the first one aligned with a big pay-per-view of the COVID era, so I'm interested. Do they do the normal big recap type show, but because it's on America they can't really do that anymore? On America? On USA? Because they're on USA, they can't really do that anymore, so I'll wait and see. Anyway, a thank you for listening. I'll be back on Thursday for the NXT review. Follow me on Twitter at @TheDamnImplicat. I will be, because of Payback, I will not be going live for the Summer Struggle in Jingu. I will be, because I have to get ready for Sunday night. Again, things take time. I'm not in the best environment right now. I will be writing a column on the Summer Struggle in Jingu. Then I'll be doing Aftershock for Payback. Aftershock for SummerSlam, if you want to go listen to that, to hear all my thoughts on that pay-per-view. Really enjoyed it. Huge positive. Like, I've moaned a lot on this Raw, but I went into it really positive. Like I was saying on my SummerSlam review, that the pay-per-view made me want to watch more wrestling, and I've not had that coming out of WWE pay-per-view for quite some time. Like this era, they've either not made me want to watch more wrestling, as in I wasn't really energized by it, or they were so long that I just needed a break from wrestling, like WrestleMania, like 5-hour WrestleManias or SummerSlams. Like, I'm exhausted from wrestling by the end of them, even if I've really enjoyed them. Because for me, that's 3 SummerSlams in a row that I've genuinely enjoyed. It's just past few years, you've had that really long streak of stupidly long shows. It was nice to do a show without it being daylight, like Aftershock. Also, the Worst Case Roulette with Wrestling Shorts, who joined me. We recorded that last Wednesday, and then I knackered myself. I did the whole edit in 2 days, a full 40-minute animated somewhat video. I did the sound in one day and the video edit on Saturday in one day, and I was bloody knackered. I'm really proud of how it turned out. So yeah, give it a like or whatever, just to let me know if you liked it or not. That's what like means. Anyway, I'll be back on Thursday. I'm rambling a bit. Please do check out all the other shows on LOP Radio if you listen to this on the podcast. Like and subscribe if you're here on the YouTubes. There's the 5-star reviews and things which really help us up on the podcast. Also, if you want to support us, currently you can go to RedCircle and donate to LOP Radio. Yeah, I think the main feed's probably the best one, but I don't know if it really matters which show you donate to. I don't know on Lords of Pain Radio. We've got WF Legacy series, we've got the Maple Leaf history, which hopefully will be featured more heavily on Lords of Pain once things are properly set up. It's currently being posted though, if you want to go there. Again, I'm rambling. I'll see you on Thursday. So with that, I bid you adieu. What did you think of Keith Lee and his debut? Was it messed up or not? And with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.